Good morning, and welcome to another very special episode of the Subway Rat Podcast. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Luis, but sometimes people know me as Luisifer, illustrator of Boogers and Slime. I also sing in a band called Teething from Madrid, Spain. We play grindcore. But mostly people know me because of my friendly, beautiful doggo entitled Bingo. Today's episode is with Frank, the founder of Metal Injection, and now he is he runs Metalsucks. But a lot of people don't know this guy behind the drum kit, notably Meek's murder. Before we talk to Frank, I just want to give a disclaimer. If you're watching this on video, for some reason, my video portion of the chat was not recorded, so you can only see Frank at all moments. It's a bit awkward, but at least you see Frank, and I'm not as important. So that's the good side of things. Today's food for thought is this amazing and excellent 80s synth pop revival that's been going on for, I feel, since the movie Drive came out, but the more years pass, the more present it is. So for the past 5 years, all of these amazing singles and bands have been coming out. Every song is killer. Every chorus is a fucking hook. Every lyric is as cheesy and amazing as Top Gun. I'm devouring these songs and I'm full of excitement and makes me want to fart and be happy. Those are my 2 cents on the 80s synth pop revival. Without further ado, enjoy my conversation with Frank. Thank you. So how are you? Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing great, man.
Good morning, because it's 9:10 a.m. there, right?
It is, yeah. Sunny California, living in paradise right now,
So, this is the Subway Rat Podcast. Welcome. I'm gonna go through a quick rundown of everything you're doing currently and everything you've done in the past. Let me know if I'm missing anything, okay?
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so you're the company director and host of the Metal Injection website and Metalsucks website.
Mm-hmm.
You're the organizer and curator of the Slay at Home Fest. And you're, from not too long ago, you're a digital nomad.
Guilty, all of it, yeah.
Okay, so is there anything else currently? Are you playing in any bands right now?
No, not currently, unfortunately. I've played in bands pretty much like all my life, but I think the last one was really probably about 3 or 4 years ago. Circumstances, life happens. My main band, Meek's Murder, that I played with for many years, we kind of went on different paths. Really, my vocalist, guitar player, songwriter, Mike Keller, he wound up getting a phone call from Apple to be one of their developers, and basically had to, take the job. We always said, real life first, and we always respected each other's lives. You know what I mean? So we were actually really stoked for him, and he's doing great in San Francisco. And unfortunately, that meant we went on a hiatus for sure, and we kind of scrambled to play our last show, I think 3 days after we got the news, because he had about a week to pick up and leave New York.
Wow.
So that was kind of abrupt, but that ended the band pretty much. And ever really since then, I played in a couple fill-in things. I sometimes fill in for Silvertomb, which is, the guys from Type O Negative, their new endeavor. But a couple of other spots here and there filling in and whatnot, but which I love to do. But no, I haven't had anything solid or concrete. And honestly, I'm still looking, to kind of get back into it. But in the meantime, through Slay at Home, I got to jam with pretty much every, hero I have. So it's been an amazing experience.
Very cool. And you got ahead of me because I did want to cover Mika's murder. So thanks for all the info. Although I heard some of that stuff on the podcast you did with Rob Flynn, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And so it's been 3 or 4 years since you last played with Mika's murder. Were you involved with Enabler at some point?
I was, yeah. I played drums for them for I guess a little over 2 years, maybe like
Okay.
almost 3 years. And yeah, that was an amazing experience. Actually, I mean, to be honest, that was like one of my favorite fucking bands to play in because it was like, Slayer meets Hatebreed. I had so much fun playing those songs. And I still actually, when I practice drums, I play those songs just to keep chops up because they're so fast and crazy.
Very cool. There are some quite few similarities between Mika's Murder and Enabler, just sonically and musically, from my point of view. And Silver Tomb sounds like a lot of fun. So that's congratulations on filling in once in a while. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, I'll fill in for anybody who'll have me, Well, I shouldn't say that actually, because I'm gonna start getting phone calls. No, it's really about the people, like the people that I enjoy to hang around. Like I love to work with them, but that's true about whether it's a fill-in or a real band or anything like that. The people always first. You got to like the people.
Exactly. And those guys seem like a bunch of funny New Yorkers like yourself.
I love those dudes. Yeah, hell yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you the first question. Well, it's not the first question because we've been talking for a while, but the first proper question, which is my favorite question in the whole podcast, which is, Frank, do you prefer sweet or savory food?
Savory all the way. I actually skip dessert like 99% of the time. I don't really even think about sweets. I don't know when that started, to be honest. Like, I mean, as a kid, yeah, I was like a fat kid who'll eat anything really. Well, that's not true. I started out like kind of like anorexic and then got fat because I ate everything. But coming into my own, like it was all probably ever since I went vegetarian and then vegan, of course, like it's really just gone down this more savory route, and sweets, especially because way back in the day, they didn't make vegan sweets. So I never
Right.
really cared for them or thought about them. And now that they do, I just recognize how bad they are for you. So I don't really, that's a treat, a very, very
Okay.
once in a while rare treat.
What about for your birthday? Will you get a cake or will people get you cake?
So I only celebrate birthdays very sparingly. I recently, my sister threw me a really big party in New York City. And I also had one here on the West Coast as well. And both of them had vegan cakes there, but I don't recall eating the cake at either one of them. It's really for, guests, for my friends.
And where do you, where, in your opinion, where do you get the better vegan cuisine, on the East Coast or the West Coast?
LA, man. Like I always say it,
Really?
but LA is the mecca of vegan eating.
Wow.
I love New York for a million reasons, and I think it's truly the greatest city on earth. But there's definitely, reasons I come out to LA for a good 4 or 5 months out of the year. And I'm very torn. Like I have, just as many friends here as I do in New York, and the weather is definitely better here. The vegan scene is way better here. So it's hard to beat.
And say like one of your very good friends was traveling to see you in LA now. Where would you take them for a kick-ass awesome vegan dinner? Like if you had to choose one place.
Damn, that's a hard one, I think. I mean, it's that's hard to say one, but I'd say Pura Vida or Crossroads. Both those places just do stellar work, and Yeah, those two I think are probably my two favorite places in LA that I go to, and I have to kind of refrain from going there too often because I'm just gonna gain a lot of weight if I if I do like a daily run. I actually cook. I know I post a lot on social media, a lot of meals, but yeah, those are all treats to me. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I always post the good spots. Like there's a lot more spots I don't post. I think people get into the habit of just like posting literally everything that they do or see or eat or whatever. I'm very careful. Like if there's a shitty place, I don't want to promote it. You know what I mean? So I don't talk
Right.
about it. But those are really depressing, you know, like when you have a shitty meal, I get really depressed, to be honest with you, because like there's a finite amount of meals you can have in life, and I just wasted one, so it really sucks. But I cook more than anything.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I would say 90-95% of the meals I eat, I cook.
Okay. And do you tend to sorry, I know we're rambling on about food, but I love food so much and I see you do too. Do you freeze a
Yeah.
lot of your food?
No, not at all.
Mm.
I actually, a lot of it's just fresh vegetables, type stuff cooked up, whether it's like zucchini pastas or, tofu scramble or whatever it is. I cook it. Do you mean like meal prepping?
Yeah, that's meal prepping.
No, I probably should, to be honest. It'll go by faster, but no, I like it fresh. So I make it fresh. I just got really, really good at making stuff fast because I do it every day.
Okay.
So I could probably, and I eat incredibly fast. So like, if I have like there's so many meetings and stuff throughout the day. Sometimes I'll find myself like a half an hour break, and I'll rush the kitchen, cook, eat, clean within a half an hour, get right back to meetings and whatnot.
Okay, so you're really quick both at eating and preparing. There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
So rewinding a bit, these two LA spots you mentioned, are they specialized? Of course, they're specialized in vegan food, but is it like concentrated on one thing?
No, well, Pura Vida is an Italian-based vegan
Okay.
restaurant. And Crossroads, no, it's kind of like a um, high-end restaurant type feel, that has like a lot of different things in it.
Okay, because I feel like my favorite vegan spots usually are the ones that are specialized on one thing. Like I live in Madrid, Spain, and my favorite vegan restaurant is all Peruvian food. And for example, I was talking to Chris Callahan from Sect last
Uh-huh.
week, and he told me his favorite spot is next, very close to his house. It's all vegan sushi, and I've never been to a place that's all vegan sushi because I'm quite tired of just getting like
Like a
avocado
peanut
sushi.
roll. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, to be honest, we have in New York, we have a place called Beyond Sushi that I hate. And
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's become very popular. It's a chain, but that's one of those places where I don't, like I've been there a couple times, and I try to give them the benefit of doubt. I'm like, oh, maybe I just had like a bad one-time experience. Let me try it again, a few months later. But that was a place I tried like 2 or 3 times, and I just didn't enjoy it. I thought the sushi kind of fell apart, and it was a little weird. I'd rather go to an actual Japanese place and get
Mhm.
an avocado roll or peanut roll, and you know what I mean, like those. That's tight. That's real.
Yeah.
um but yeah, the places like that, I mean, you're right that it's hard to come by, especially around the world, but um yeah, Beyond Sushi was not my thing for sure. Do
Okay.
love sushi though, or sushi rolls.
I just like ever
Also, I
since.
mean, Madrid has incredible vegan tapas around. I've had that many times too while I was there.
Oh, okay, what did you try?
I mean, I've had vegan patata bravas, and then
Fuck yeah.
there's uh um man, I'm losing the name right now. The rice dish that you guys have, paella. Oh my
Paella.
god, man, I could eat paella all day, but holy shit, it's a lot to handle.
Shout out to Patatas Bravas, no doubt, because yeah, they're vegan And paella, of course, you have to get the one with the vegetables, but it's amazing with the. I just had one last weekend. My band was playing in Valencia. I don't know if you went to Valencia
Yeah.
while being in Spain, and it was amazing. And so you've been to Madrid, Spain. That's awesome. For vacation, for work?
What's funny is I somehow turn everything I do into work. So
Okay.
I went for vacation. And did a whole trip. I actually went to, usually the month of December is a good time to travel abroad. And that's essentially, I guess, how I started like the whole nomad thing in the first place. Every December, basically, I'll go pick another spot in the world where I don't need to be, like, so
Okay.
there's a couple places throughout the festival season that you need to hit, like Hellfest and
Mhm.
Germany and UK, whatnot. So I've been to all these places a lot. And I try to seek out some of the countries that I haven't been to, because I just love to travel, explore new things, get to new cultures, learn history of different places. So I did Spain, and going from Barcelona, Madrid, and then I made my way south, and I was in northern Africa, which was
Nice.
that whole trip was surreal, to be honest with you. Like, very different for sure. Madrid was great. I had amazing food in Madrid for sure, and I wound up running into, just randomly, I was staying, I don't remember the name of the place, or even the name of the venue. I was staying close to a venue, and when I was in Barcelona, my friends in Fusco, they showed me around, and I had a great time with them. And then I wound up making my way to Madrid. And while I was there, maybe the third or fourth day, they texted me that, hey, we're actually going to be in Madrid. And I was like, oh, sick. And what are you doing? And they're like, oh, we're playing a show. And I didn't know that they were playing with my friends in the Zealand Ardor. So
Okay.
it was a great time, like hanging out with, both bands that I'm friends with.
So an improvised gathering. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
What when you say Fusco, is that spelled Foscor?
Yep. That's it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I'm well aware of them. I didn't know that was the pronunciation though. Fusco.
Yeah. I try to be big on like pronouncing things right. So I
Okay.
asked Tuan, the singer, like many, many times, like how to pronounce it right.
Okay, there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's Catalan. So it's, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was one of those made up words. Okay, I wasn't aware it was Catalan. Okay, that's cool. You do your research. You want to get the accent right. I see you're have a very good memory. You remember patatas bravas, paella. Okay,
It's
very
funny. I
cool.
actually think I have a terrible memory, but I remember food.
Okay, good. I think we're good with food for now. Let's go. It's been a good like 10-15 minutes of food. Good.
Yeah. Hey man, I could
Um,
talk for hours about food. That's good.
Likewise, if that all of my podcasts begin asking everyone their favorite food, you'd be surprised. Like a lot of cool answers.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good icebreaker.
Oh, we got to eat, everybody eats.
Yeah, dude. Top five pleasures in life for sure. Maybe top three.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask you kind of a cliche question, but I feel like it's an important and a necessary one. I want to ask you about the pandemic, about COVID, about isolation, and I know a lot of people can talk about the negative aspects, but I want to ask you about the positive aspects. Like, what comes to mind? What good have you gotten out of the pandemic?
Oh, easy. Off the top of my head, this right here. Like,
Okay.
so Zoom, and really any kind of internet platform to communicate, I think has really made a massive impact on not just allowing people to communicate and stay together, but has changed how interviews are done, and in essence has made them so much better. So before, like, the pandemic, it would all be in-person interviews, and it's just like the worst scenario ever. If I realize that most people may be watching this or in the world have never experienced anything like that. But it's really like, working with a tour manager to try and find a 15-minute window where a band actually has time that you can usher you into a dressing room, set up lights and cameras, microphones. You're like rushing, you're literally sweating, like it's just a panic mode because like your every minute counts, because there's three other, journalists behind you trying to get in their spot, and nothing's ever on time because, like bands have things that come up and there's sound checks to do and whatnot, and there's shit to move around. And then you're invading, the backstage space while like you're interviewing one person, and then four of the members have to awkwardly linger around and find somewhere to fuck off. It's the entire thing is just like a recipe for disaster. And
Right.
Zoom has essentially allowed us to communicate on a way more comfortable space, where, whoever it is in the band that I'm talking to is at home, relaxed, fine. I'm doing the same. And because there's not all that like panic and setup and moving around, whatever else, we can actually have a decent conversation. And at length too, because that they're at home and they're not trying to rush into the next thing or the next interview or try to get on stage in a couple hours and make sure that they have, they eat at the right time and sleep at the right time. It's just, tour is meant for playing a show, and I respect that. I always did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Zoom, or not just Zoom, but there's other companies out there that do it, obviously. But speaking through the internet has definitely changed the face of the interview for the better.
And what do you think? I feel like ever since the pandemic has begun, of course, everyone's been using Zoom, Teams, whatever, more and more. I feel like there's been like a really cool evolution where this feels more human. Like when at the beginning, phone interviews or video interviews didn't seem very human, but I think we're getting very much getting used to this, and it's quite similar to as if you and me were in a room right now. Have you
Yeah.
seen
Oh,
that
yeah.
progression?
Absolutely. I mean, like the subject matter is getting deeper. We're talking longer.
Mm-hmm.
Comfort's a really big thing,
Right.
and being backstage is just not that comfortable, for something like a conversation that's meant to go on camera and mean something. So, I mean, like, if you do it enough, like I have here, you have like a little setup, whatever, you just, need just a couple of feet in your house somewhere to make a YouTube studio type thing. But I think it's becoming more common, which is great, because everybody should really just spend $100 on a light and a microphone to be able to do this effectively. And that's all it takes to really facilitate a great conversation. And yes, you're right. Like I do see that things are getting very real and we're having real conversations now.
And do you carry your because you travel with a backpack, correct?
I have a suitcase. Yeah. It's a
Okay,
small
okay,
one, but yeah.
okay. So you have your lighting rig, your mic, and in a little briefcase, and that's it?
It's not a briefcase, but I have a stand, mic, preamp, light, diffuser,
Okay.
laptop, clothing, camera. Those are the necessities. That and a couple metal t-shirts and the same pants every day.
Okay. And are you currently staying at an Airbnb?
Right now, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Which is most of the time around the world, I'm Airbnb or
Okay.
subletting, because some places, even though Airbnb is actually still illegal in certain places, so they
Uh-huh.
call it subletting instead.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, Frank, let's jump into what we were talking about before, which is Mika's murder. Um, I was actually aware of Mika's murder way before your websites. So I've been a fan for quite some time, and when I put one and one together, I was blown away. Which I feel like that's probably happened more than one person. So
It's usually the other way around. Like
okay,
people
yeah,
know Metal Injection's so big that it's, it is what it is.
right.
But and then they see Mika's Murder and like, wait, is that the guy from Metal Injection? So it's interesting that
I've
you
all
found it the other way around.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised. Like I feel like you didn't, from my point of view, you didn't milk it enough. Like you weren't like shamelessly plugging Mika's Murder, you know?
Oh, I was very careful about that actually.
Okay.
And like that was a deliberate move. Like I I don't want to be that person who is, pushing my band through my own channels or whatnot and taking advantage of the situation. You know what I mean? I wanted to actually get somewhere and do the work because we earned it.
Okay.
Um and I think that hopefully comes through in a respectable manner. um but yeah, I did not. You're right, I did.
Okay.
Even when we were working with publicists and whatnot, well, Karen was
Uh-huh.
our publicist, Karen Reynolds was our publicist, and I always make sure to tell him, like, I'm willing to talk about it if somebody asks, but I don't want to push it down everybody's throat that this is what I do for my day job or anything, or just have some sort of respectability about it.
That's very cool. That's very honorable. I feel like I wouldn't be able to do that. So props to you. Um so Mika's Murder did a lot of cool stuff. I believe you guys recorded 3 albums.
Mhm.
Reflecting back now that time has passed, uh do you have a favorite or one you're especially proud of for whatever reason, whether it's the songs or the production?
Oh man, I won't. That's a really hard one, actually. Yeah, we did 3 albums and 2 EPs, and then a single, and so there was 6 different recordings that we wound up doing total. Actually, 7 because we also did a cover on a compilation, a helmet cover. Um, but And in that compilation cover, we did we did Helmet, and we also did a Metallica cover that we gave away for free. But yeah, I don't know. Out of those 7 recordings, I got to say the very first one was something special. Like we
Okay.
were still pretty new with each other, and everything was just, how like anything new is exciting.
Yeah.
So it was our first with Kurt Ballou. We were just
Hmm.
getting into the studio. He didn't really know what to make out of us or anything. And even though I was aware of who he is, or like I never actually met him before until then, um, which obviously spawned a great relationship and friendship. But it was all around exciting. That making algorithms, the first record, was really exciting, and I think it also has a very unique sound. I think every recording we've done sounds pretty different from each other. I mean, like the musically, we kind of have like our groove in what we do, but that first one it stands out a lot, compared to the other 2 recordings that Kurt also did in the same room in the same way. It just turns out that like that first one was just very unique. But that's also, to the credit of Kurt. Like he doesn't like all of his recordings to sound the same, and finds kind of like he doesn't have like a preset thing. He just kind of tunes it in right then and there. I think of him more as like a football coach. Like he just like he looks at the field and he just knows how to like where things should be and how they should move. Um and yeah, so I think ultimately that first one came out really cool. It's also like one where it has some of the highest highs and lowest lows. Like you take a song like Garbage Collector, the very last song, for instance, and it's, first of all, I don't know that a lot of people know the album itself is it's computer science language. So like every song title is
Oh shit.
is a reference in computer science, which is what Keller does for a living. And so like we would get kind of nerdy guys coming up to us at shows, be like, all right, who's the computer programmer in this band? and it was kind of funny because it's kind of like this niche thing that people recognized and knew. So anyway, they're all terms. Every song title is a term that you use in computer programming. And Garbage Collector, the last song, it's Garbage Collector is where you put all your extra code, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And what was really interesting about that is the song, before it was even titled or anything like that, that's what happened with the song. They were all of the leftover riffs that we couldn't fit anywhere else, and we mashed them together into like, that's why that one song has like tambourines and waltz and then, you know, blast beats and slow parts and fast parts. It has everything, you know, and it was almost like an accident, that song. And that's why it's one of my favorite songs, because it's like we just got really good at making lemonade. We were like, all right, let's just take all these extra pieces and things that went wrong and make something really cool with it, you know. And that's what Garbage Collector came out to be. And I love that song. It has a lot of emotion and mood and, you know, peaks and valleys and whatnot. More so than really any of our other songs, because they're, you know, a lot of our music was just meant to be like chaotic, relentless, you know, 1 minute long, but we have 9 different parts in the song. We don't actually have really any repeats. I know they sound like there's the repetitions, they sound similar, but they're not the same at all. Like we'll make sure we add an extra note or something like that to make it different than the first time we did it around. So in that regard, we never actually have true repeats, you know, in our songs. So yeah, a lot of mental gymnastics there, to be honest with you. And every time we would like not see each other or not play for a while, it would take us like, you know, a good couple practices to kind of get on board. Like, I'm like, fuck, I forgot we had to add, you know, extra 2 notes on this, you know, whatever this round. Yeah, we kept it really interesting for ourselves. And I love playing in that band because of it. You know, I think any professional musician out there will tell you that it's really important to write music or write parts that is going to entertain you this 300th time that you play it, you know, because the worst thing is going to be you're you know, you're playing this for years and years and years and you fucking just are tired of playing it. But we seemingly could never get tired of playing Mika's Murder music because it was just nearly impossible. You know, we barely remember it half the time. So
Well, Mika's Murder sound like such a fun and unpredictable project for you guys. Definitely, I know Metal Injection is one of your babies, but I'm sure Mika's Murder is another one of your babies for sure.
You know, anything I pour my heart and passion and time into, I get, you know, in a nutshell, I get very passionate about the things that I do and I spend time on, because time is the currency of life, you know, and I don't like, that's one of my biggest peeves is to waste time. Like it irks the living fuck out of me. It depresses me. I don't like wasting time. I'm very like systematic about what I try to do. And if I'm gonna like be in a band or play with somebody, it's got to mean something, you know.
Right.
And Mika's Murder definitely meant something to me, you know.
Well, thanks so much for that Easter egg on Garbage Collector. I'm gonna let my girlfriend know about that because she's nerdy that way. I'm not smart enough for that, and I feel like it's really cool that I asked you what your favorite recording was out of all of the 7, and you can reflect on the first one being possibly your favorite, when most bands maybe will cringe on their first recordings. So that's refreshing to hear.
You're right. I also think a lot of bands do that because they're trying to, they always refer to their latest recording because they're trying to push it or get sales out, whatever, you know. And you know, I'd rather just be honest and you know, like if I love the last recording we did, and that was, I could tell you 100 stories about that one and how those songs came together too. But like, yeah, there's something special and magical about the experience of making that first one. And I guess for me, it's always experience, you know.
Yeah, just that youthful energy, I'm guessing, it was poured on that recording. And now that you mentioned the last album, the album cover always caught my eye. Like Could you go through the album cover, like who came up with it, what it symbolizes, and so on?
Sure. I mean, Keller would be a much better person to ask that, to be honest
Okay.
with you. But yeah, the image itself, if I remember correctly, I think our friend Dan took that photo, and I'm pretty sure he took the photo because he is a photographer at like abandoned places like asylums and whatnot. Like he kind of
Hmm.
just a great photographer who just kind of wanders into abandoned spots and takes like landscape photos and whatnot. And that was one that really stuck out to Keller. And Keller truly was like lyrics were all him. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
As a vocalist and whatnot. I mean, because that's not always the case. For instance, somebody like Meshuggah Tomas, the drummer, writes all the lyrics. So it's not always the singer who's writing, but he was, all the lyrics and vocals. And yeah, I think he felt like the image really reflected what the arc of the album was about. um and what's really interesting in hindsight, that it was our last record and it was called Was, and like people were referring to Meek Was Murder and instead of Meek is Murder. And it's really interesting that it got called that in that time, considering now here we are years later and it was our last recording. So truly Meek Was Murder.
So you guys were not aware at the moment that was going to be the last recording at the time?
No, not at all. We were
Okay.
actually working on another record when we got, Keller got the phone
Uh-huh.
call. um I think we had like two songs written,
Okay.
and we were prepping for the next record, and then the hiatus happened.
Okay. So let's talk about cool shit you guys did. So a couple of things come to mind. Correct me if I'm wrong, but one of your albums, instead of being on an LP, was like on a double 7-inch. Is that correct?
We well, the albums are all on a uh
Uh-huh.
full scale vinyl. I'm trying to think. We did. Oh, you might be referring to the two EPs. So what we wound up doing is,
Okay.
I had this idea that we should, because we had two EPs, we should now, like the first EP we just put out digitally. The second EP we were just going to put out digitally. But I'm like, wait, we have two EPs. We can put one on each side of a vinyl now, and I think that would be
Yeah.
cool. Kind of make its own record, so to speak. So we did that. So that was one, and then a 7-inch. I don't think we ever did a 7-inch. The only thing
Okay.
that we did on a 7-inch was the compilation, the cover compilation. Um, but we didn't
Okay.
actually put that out. That was another. I'm trying to remember the name of the label. We just kind of gave out the song to them, and they took care of it.
That's what I was thinking of, the double EPs you were talking
Right.
about. I just always, as a record collector, I always appreciate like double LPs.
Yeah, I had
Um
a lot of weird ideas for our releases that I wanted to do. What's funny is I mean, my forte has always been kind of like an idea guy, whether it's Metal Injection or Bands of Men or whatever else. And I always loved coming up with really dumb things that even Mika's Murder wouldn't want to do. Like there was one, and I would think they're brilliant, but they're like, no, we're not going to do that. One of them was I wanted to do Mika's Murder greeting cards, because our songs were so short. Like we have like, I mean, there is, as you know, as a fan, there's like a 17-second song, there's like a 30-second song, there's a bunch of minute-long songs. I'm like,
uh-huh.
all right, well, we can create our own greeting cards, because the mini recorder inside greeting cards, I think, holds up to like 45 seconds. I was like, guys, this is prime for us. Imagine we have a limited edition. You open it up, and that's the way you get the song. You can't get it any other way. I thought it was brilliant, but I don't know, they were not so into it.
That's a brilliant idea, which hopefully someone will steal if you guys don't put it to use after this
It's definitely got to be grind
hiatus.
bands. Grind band's the only kind of band that's going to write a short enough song to do that.
Well, my band's a grind band, so I might have to steal that.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, and I'll send you a greeting card if we do that.
Thank you.
What other cool ideas did you think about that never got made or did get made? Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it's documented in like the behind the scenes video stuff, but I remember when we were doing the sci-fi record, I was just joking about like a Wilhelm scream, like, oh, there should be a Wilhelm scream, because like the entire, I don't know why we just made this Star Trek, Star Wars, Back to the Future, like just this themed EP. I think it was the second one we did. I'm sorry, the first EP we did with Kevin and Trezian, who played with Dillinger Escape Plan.
Mm-hmm.
We did it at his studio. And yeah, it was just like a kind of a fun record to make. And it had a lot of cheese involved. So I was just like, we're missing a Wilhelm scream in here. And that was one of those things where everybody just looked at each other. We're like, dude, done. We need to do that. So you can find the scream in that EP. It's kind of like another Easter egg, what else? I don't know. Nothing comes off the top of my head. Yeah, I don't know. We all had different things going on. Like, I mean, Keller loved to take care of a lot of the artwork, and he would like take it inspiration from, different like statues and stuff and architecture, stuff like that. Yeah, I wouldn't say like we're like Tool, where everything means something. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I did love that Wilhelm scream trivia. Was that your idea?
Well, I will say there is a cool, like, I mean, I feel like it's obvious. Maybe people don't know it, but going back to Algorithms, the very first record, the very intro, the intro song is also the outro, just slower. So we, Hello World, which is the opening command that you write for computer programming. Hello World and Garbage Collector, the very end of Garbage Collector is the same as Hello World, just slow down. And we did that intentionally so that we can kind of bookend, like you start a program, you end a program. And
okay,
yeah,
that's fucking awesome. I wasn't aware.
We do that kind of shit, but I always joked about like how we should do like a Dream Theater thing where the last note of every record is the first note of the next record, so that you can like listen continuously, and we never got around to doing anything like that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of ideas out there to play with,
That's very cool. I never put that together with Algorithms. I'm gonna listen to it on my dog walk today, so I can put one and one together. Two bands come to mind that have done that. Hatebreed ended Perseverance with the same way they began Rise of Brutality, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then I believe you're friends with the Trap Them guys. There's this, I think it's their second to last album, which ends with a re-recording of one of their earlier songs, like one of those. I forget which. Were you aware of these?
No. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying it was anything new. In fact, I'm a really big Dream Theater fan, and they would do shit like that all the time, have callbacks in their music, like a Change of Seasons, for instance, is one where they play like a different abridged versions of how they start the song, and they bring it back at the end. I love like, very epic and dramatic things within music, and Dream Theater is a great resource to look at when you want to think of doing stuff like that, because it's all so majestic.
For sure. And we've talked a lot about Mika's Murder's recordings, but I want to talk about some touring. I know you guys toured a lot on the East Coast, the West Coast, but I believe you did Europe in 2016. I want to ask you about how cool was that experience?
It was
And
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing, man. We were out with Svalbard, who are still killing it right now and doing even better now than they were back then. Really good friends of ours. Um, they took care of a lot. So the story there, and it's kind of a weird one, but so I was playing in Mika's Murder and Enabler simultaneously for a while. And I mean, obviously, I was playing in Mika's Murder for a really long time. And towards the end of that run, Enabler popped up. And we even did some touring together. You know, I was doing double duty on maybe one or two runs. I don't remember. And then I was also driving. So it was just like driving for hours and hours and hours and then getting out and playing, you know, double sets and whatnot. It was a pretty surreal. I don't have that stamina that I used to. um, but it was crazy. Anyway, you know, Enabler had some issues with Vice magazine, as far as I recall, calling out the singer, and that was like one of the earliest cancel culture type things that happened, really. And um, so Enabler effectively was over, and that was like a giant nightmare to kind of deal with. And we had tours everywhere lined up. Enabler had tours, you know, in Europe and Australia and everything that I had already paid for, you know, for tickets and everything,
Mhm.
because I was like, you know, kind of managing the band and fronting. And um so when the Enabler tour fell through, or just the Enabler fell through in total, Svalbard hit me up and we're like, "Hey, man, we're actually really big fans of your other band too. You know, would you want to do this with Mika's Murder?" And you know, and honestly, that was an amazing thing because we got to just transition, you know, the you know, my tickets and whatnot that I had, and we set it up with Svalbard, and that was such a great run. You know, we started in the UK and went all around Europe. I had just got back from doing dates in Europe with Enabler a couple months before, I believe. So I spent, yeah, I did a couple runs throughout Europe, and it was just an amazing time. Um, and I remember playing a lot of cool bunkers, meeting a lot of great people. You know, we played a lot of. I didn't know that like Europe had that sort of scene. Like, you know, like it's one thing. Like, yeah, I'm fully aware that Europe loves metal, but
Mhm.
as far as like grindy, chaotic math metal, I'm like, I never, you know, I didn't know if there was an audience there for us, especially like, you know, I didn't have delusions of grandeur or anything like that. Like, oh, we're Dillinger sized or, you know,
Mhm.
so who knows who's gonna fucking show up. But when people did, that was a treat for sure. You know, like having packed places in, you know, fucking Austria or Germany, or, you know, played a crazy basement show in Italy actually. And I remember my favorite thing ever was always watching my dudes just go off like crazy and then people interact with it. So I remember in Italy, people like they picked up Sam and they kept pushing him up so high that he was gonna hit the ceiling, and he had to like have his feet on the ceiling so they wouldn't crush him while he's trying to play bass, you know. And it was just wild, like a lot of wild shows. The one thing I hated is, or generally every time I play Europe, the thing that I hate is how much they smoke cigarettes there inside the
Mm.
venues. And it's just, you know, as a drummer and I'm like huffing and puffing and playing. I remember, I think it was like Austria. And I'm like, we were playing this really big bunker and we think that like it has enough space or whatever, but it was just so packed with smoke that it's like, yo, tell them to turn the smoke machine off. And they're like, dude, there's no smoke machine here. I'm like, fuck, you know. It's just all cigarette smoke, and that's pretty rough for a band to be up there playing like that, you know. And here in America, we don't have that issue at all, because there's no smoking indoors. So
For sure. Especially if you're playing those DIY spots, many times you have to actually sleep at the place. And
Mhm.
like a lot of people will just, I have that problem too, where people will just hang around. They want to keep partying, so they'll keep smoking. You'll be breathing that smoke all night and you'll wake up with a terrible cough. And I can't even imagine what it's like if you're the drummer. And
Yeah, the three of us, we don't smoke,
right.
so it's like kind of a lot to handle. But that was the worst thing. Like, I mean, we
Yeah.
had nothing but an amazing time, a great adventure. Got to, be with our friends doing it. Played some sick shows, met some great fans, sold a lot of merch. Um, I got what do you call it? I got some really bad poisoning in Croatia.
Oh shit. Food
Yeah,
poisoning?
no, what do they call that when there's like parasites in the water? E.
Oh,
coli. Yeah, so like the last day, I think we did. Was it London? Was the last show? I don't remember. But we did a whole roundabout, and then um, it was kind of brewing over the last couple days. It's just like, man, something don't feel right. Does something don't feel right? And then like we played the
shit.
last show. I flew home, and I was just like done, man. Like I had to go to a doctor and urgent care, and for 10 days I was basically laid up with parasites. And I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99% sure that it was in Croatia, because we played this really, really dodgy art place that had some really funky water. So I'm just guessing it was there, but I mean, who knows?
Okay. So tip, maybe book, let's buy water next time,
Yeah,
right?
but that's
Okay.
that's the other thing about Europe is when you ask for water, a lot of it's carbonated, especially in Germany, it's all like carbonated water. And I'm like,
Okay.
yo, there's something about just water. So they give me tap water, and that's when you get into
Mm,
trouble.
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
So be careful out there.
yeah, exactly. That's a really cool insight you had, where obviously there's a humongous metal scene. There's huge like metal festivals here in Europe. But yeah, like you said, like people, you weren't aware like there's a small scene for like the grindier, chaotic, hardcore bands. So that's cool. You got to live that for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, it
And
was a great time.
I lived
and
in New
and
York.
also just
Sorry.
exploring. Like, I love
Yeah.
traveling, so
Yeah.
you get to. And I always think of touring as like a sampler for
Okay.
travel. So I get to spend like a good 6 or 7 hours in a city exploring, because that's what I do. Like a lot of guys, especially on that tour, like they would just chill. Like, oh, let's play video games, sit here and play video games until we wait for the show. I'm like, fuck that, man. Like, how often am I going to be in this city or scenario? So I'm like, I'm an early riser. I'm a
Okay.
total morning dude. So I'll take my shower, put my bag by the door, and they knew every day to just text me, when they're ready to pick me up, and I'll drop them a pin where in the city I am, to pick me up. And we did that a lot. But I would just go and explore and walk around the cities and try things that eat food, try vegan food around, and
Right.
go sometimes to museums or whatever else. I had a great time doing that shit.
And that's so cool. You were so prepared. You had your bag ready by the door. So you just wake up and
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I mean, well, they know to put it in the van for me and pick me up later. Kind of do my own thing. I I I'm definitely a person that needs space. I need my
Hmm.
own time by myself. Being living in a van with a bunch of dudes is cool, but it's like, no, I need a
Right.
break.
Okay. But that's cool. You know how to work with it. So you know how to work with it, whether you're in a band, I'm guessing if you're in a relationship with someone. So that's cool, man. Um, Dude, talking about, because this is a perfect segue. I want to talk a bit about New York, because I lived in New York for a couple of years. and I saw a lot of cool bands there. And I want to ask you about a band which I was totally in love with, which went very much unheard, I think on purpose, but they're very much grindy, noisy, hardcore, which was Psychic Limb.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Okay, and were you I'm guessing you were aware of them?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay,
I saw them last time I saw them, I want to say was fuck, what's the name of that club? It's a basement club. Uh,
Charleston.
oh, I mean, did you see them there? I might have
I've
seen them
seen
there.
them there many times. Yeah, one of my
Okay.
favorite places for gigs in New York, Charleston, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely saw the. Is that the pizzeria, Charleston?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. That's gone now, unfortunately.
Oh,
Yeah, so we played there a lot, but there's a lot unfortunate. I mean, it's New York, like it's
yeah.
unfortunate, but there's not a lot of places that stick
Right,
around or have the capacity to stick around, because of lease issues and whatnot.
right.
Charleston's gone, uh, at least the stage,
Hmm.
proportion. Um, no, that wasn't the one I was thinking of. I think the first time I saw them was like a different venue. I can't remember, but it's all gone as well,
Oh,
so it doesn't really matter. Anyway,
was
yes,
it
I
what?
have seen them.
Okay, was it Cake Shop? Maybe.
No, it's
Okay,
similar,
okay.
but no, it's another one in Manhattan somewhere.
Well, I just wanted to ask you if you know what those guys were up to, or
Oh, I don't. No, I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't thought about them in a couple of years, but
right,
now that you
right.
did, I'll probably after this interview, I'm gonna turn them on and
Yeah, dude.
reminisce.
Yeah, because it just blew me. It was one of those. It was the first time I was aware of a band that they had no internet presence. They're they would just release their stuff on vinyl. All the songs were untitled. One of the records was called Jamaica. The other one was Queens. I don't know. It was just a very I don't know. It went very aligned with the music, and since they were always opening up for all the like cool grind bands, I used to see them a lot. And yeah, for sure. Good luck finding maybe that those records digitally. I'm sure someone must have
I
uploaded it
thought it
on
was on
YouTube or something.
Bandcamp. I
Okay.
mean, so Bandcamp is such a huge resource for bands like Mika's Murder and them.
Hmm.
Um, because streaming is great. Spotify, Apple Music, like so many people have it, so you got to have those avenues out there. But Bandcamp has done such I feel like that underground type of stuff.
Hmm.
That's really where it lives, like and thrives. For whatever reason. It's just Bandcamp sharing was like a really big thing for us, and that's really how that was our merch store. That's how we really connected with people was through Bandcamp. Of course, we were at Mika's Murder. We were on every platform there is, but Bandcamp was really where we sold stuff and saw interaction with fans and whatnot.
For sure. And Bandcamp is still going strong. And I think it's since the pandemic, they've done that really cool thing on the first Friday of every month, which was like no commission.
Yes, please.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're still doing that every once in a while,
yeah,
and getting involved with important causes and whatnot. Yeah, I'm a really big fan of that company.
yeah, man. And before we close the Mika's murder chapter, so you guys have not closed the book on possibly playing in the future.
I mean, I say never, never say never. Uh, I don't, I don't know.
Okay.
It's one of those things where we're all. I mean, the three of us are in completely different cities. Um, Sam's still in New York. I kind of float around a lot throughout L.A., New York, and Europe. Keller is in San Francisco, and so we don't really see each other like ever.
Okay.
Um, but we still talk. We still love each other. Every once in a while we'll actually just like part of a text group like start joking around and fucking around again, and maybe talk about doing music, but then it goes nowhere, because we're all so busy with our own stuff,
Yeah, that makes sense. That's usually what happens. So now we close the Mika's Murder book. Let's talk a little bit about Metal Injection and Metalsucks. Can you give I feel like you're gonna explain it better than I am, but you've been going strong with Metal Injection for over 15 years, with a couple of partners which are not around anymore, and now you've also taken over Metalsucks. Can you talk a little bit about that and explain the process?
Yeah. So Metal Injection started, it's actually been 18 years, over 18 years now. And I really poured my entire life into it. It's one of those things where it started as kind of like a secondary job joke thing to do, and has launched into a really crazy part of my life. I mean, it started as a TV show, a Brooklyn cable access television show. If you've seen the movie Wayne's World, you kind of get a gist of what my life was. Like, I just created this TV show in an apartment, and then I used to be a VHS tape trader, so I would splice in,
Nice.
Videos in between dumb segments. And it launched it launched as a website, because it was a TV show in 2003. It launched as a website in 2004, January 1st, 2004, and has been going strong ever since with different iterations. There was no real competition. There was no other really sites doing what we were doing, at the time, for a long time, because like video servers and whatnot, they're just so much money and such a hassle. And it was such a new thing that nobody was really thinking about. So it's great that we kind of cornered the market before it even existed, because once YouTube came around, the following year, that's changed a lot. Like, people kind of expected video on web then, and maybe not even so much as first, but it kind of gradually really picked up, and changed the face of the world. I mean, like, it's nuts, but like, what the fuck are we without YouTube now? It's, they took that away, could you even imagine what life would be like now? But so yeah, so we kind of, it was a really exciting thing, and it continues to be, really, because we're constantly evolving with the movement of technology. And we have to learn new trends, new things, and kind of get on board and try to be proactive about certain things, which is really difficult because both companies are huge. Like, there's so many moving parts to them. It's not, we don't necessarily like, I mean, maybe we specialize, or people come to us for news or whatever, but like, we don't cater to just one thing. Like, we have it all, on both sites. And so yeah, so I've been running Metal Injection for a very most half my life now. And Metalsucks is a newer development where, now we partnered with the Orchard, and my partners are all gone, and now it's my job to really manage and oversee and run both brands. And I hired site editors to take over a lot of the day-to-day stuff that we were doing on our own. So they're basically taking in the press releases and writing up the news, and setting up written interviews and editorials and galleries and whatnot. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, a lot of parts, man. And I would say the biggest challenge has really been splitting my head into, and kind of recognizing what's the best for both brands. Like, I'll come up with an idea, I'm like, this feels like a Metalsucks thing, or I'll come up with another thing and say, like, well, this has Metal Injection written all over it, so I should do this for Metal Injection. So it's been interesting as a transition, but it's been great, actually, where traffic is up. I'm really excited for the future, because I have a lot of crazy ideas that will get launched, in maybe a couple months.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm really excited for both brands.
And how big is I feel like how big is your team right now currently?
So there's me on top, and then I have two site editors who report to me, and then under them, each site, well, Metal Injection, we have right now like 20 contributors,
Okay.
and for Metalsucks, maybe about 6 or 7.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a healthy team on both teams.
Okay. And personally, what's your schedule like? Like I know you like to get up early. Is it like a 9 to 5 thing? Do you have to know when to cut off? Or
No, I mean, dude, no. Like, so this is life. Like, this is a career. I think me I don't know how to put this and not sound weird or retarded about it, but like, I can easily work a 15-hour day every day, 7 days, 300 days a year, like that's just the reality of going for it and becoming successful. And the day that I quit my day job, so even before we quit our day job, I think of it as like a band. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
you have your day job and then you go do your band until you get to the point where your band is your day job, right? And that's
Mhm.
really how I treated Metal Injection. So I had a day job and went home after working 8 hours. I hated working for anyone else. I hated working, period, because it was not something I was passionate about. And as I mentioned earlier, I hate wasting time, or if I'm not passionate about it, then I don't like it. But I went home, and because I was passionate about Metal Injection, I worked another 8 hours, and I did that for years until it was the day job. And once that happened, I felt so like excited and privileged that I never wanted it to stop, that I would easily work like 12, 15-hour days for years. And, now that I'm at this level of success with, partnering with the Orchard and Sony Music, it's hasn't changed. I thought it would, it was like, oh, I can
Mhm.
come kind of relax. I'm really bad at relaxing. So I love to work, um, because I love kind of developing ideas to become big things. So anybody who really kind of want to make it out there, I mean, the best advice I could say is just be ready to do the work, man. Like
Mhm.
that's the truth. Like, you gotta fucking do the work and bust your ass. That's how you're gonna make it. Um, so yeah, so I don't have times. I mean, but then again, there will be times because I work so much. Let's
Mhm.
say I like, oh, I want to fuck off, whatever for the day, or go see friends or whatever else. If I have people visiting where I am or whatever, and I want to, spend more time with them, whatever, I could easily say like, oh, okay, well, I'll just do half a day's work today because I've done so much work over the last, week, years, whatever it is. I don't feel bad about it.
Okay, okay. Um, yeah, okay, that's cool. That's a cool answer because I wasn't knowing what to expect from you. And
Well, I always said this, like, as a, the head, as a leader, I always
Mhm.
told everybody that ever worked for me that, lead by example, and I'll be the first one here and the last one out, and I
Right,
appreciate what everybody does, all the work that they do. But if I'm not working harder than them, there's a problem with that.
right. Okay. And this is a perfect segue. Like you've done so much cool shit with Metal Injection. Now Metal Sucks. Something that comes to mind, just walk me through this very awesome story, which was when Max Cavalera went to your house to cook food. What was that like?
Oh, that was amazing. First of all, I love Max, man. Like, I'm such a fucking huge Sepultura fan growing up. Worship them, as a
Mhm.
kid. Me and my dad, we would go see Sepultura every time they came through.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, like working with him. I mean, naturally this happens with a lot of artists. Like, you work with them and you work with them again, and like just have like a good rapport with them. So I remember I was I don't even remember. I guess I did enough interviews with him at some point, and we did an interview at a bar, and then we were just drinking and shooting the shit, and like he was talking about barbecuing and whatever else, and I was like, oh, it'd be really sick to kind of get that on camera, and somehow he remembered that, but like a year later, he like because he's always working on something.
Hmm.
Dude just never stopped. He's a career, he's a lifer, a musician. And so he had another record coming out the following year, and he's like, "Oh, it'll be cool to like do that cooking segment." And I was like, "Fuck, that's crazy. You remember that?" But I was like, "Yeah, if you want, I can like grab, get a Uber or grab a car for you at the venue, bring you to the house, and shoot it here because I have a backyard with, barbecue,
Hmm.
whatever else, and then ship him back to the show in time to play." And so he came over, and I invited a couple friends. If I remember, yeah, my friend Nick was my homie, Nick MD. He's Shock Withdrawal is his new band. Super sick guy. I
Okay.
play with him in Night Soil, which is a record we did. We put out during quarantine, but we actually started a little before that. Um, and Dave Castillo of St. Vitus, another homie of mine, and
Okay.
I invited the two of them over because I know that they're really big Max Cavalera fans and would love that experience. And I feel fortunate for Max to be my friend. So
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, let me kind of share this love with these guys. And I needed them there because I don't eat meat. And he was
Right.
making chicken. So I'm like, it's gonna be fucking weird if he makes a pile of chicken and he's the only one eating it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I invited them over to eat his chicken because I couldn't. Um but yeah, it was all overall, it's just such an amazing experience. Like any time I spend with Max, I feel like super fortunate and stoked on. So like for him to come over to my house, and he's not the only one. I mean, like I've had so many artists come over. Now I don't even have a house. It's just like this, whatever.
Right.
But it's just anytime an artist is comfortable enough to come to your space, I thought was like super fucking cool, and it meant something. And I never take that for granted. And yeah, I never take those friendships for granted. But Max is fucking awesome, always is. Yeah, after that we wound up doing this artwork thing where he was backstage at Gramercy, like making me a drum head, something I cherish. Like he made some art on a drum head, and now I got like this piece of Max art.
Now that you're a digital nomad, where do you store stuff like this that you obviously don't want to get rid of?
Good question. That's actually the only stuff that I store. Is like I donated literally everything that I owned. I basically just did inventory on my life, and I realized that like material possessions don't matter or make me happy, whatever. Donated everything. So what I did keep was those memorable items. You know what I mean? Like a lot. And there's a lot of them actually. I have a lot
Hmm.
of autograph posters from bands over the years, and because at different points, like my house was like the Metal Injection office. So like they would
Right.
give me like Ace Frehley would give me like stuff from my office or whatever else, and knickknacks and memorable gifts and stuff like that.
Right.
I have to keep all that stuff. That means a lot to me, and I keep that at my mom's house in Pennsylvania. um and that's really it. That and my motorcycles are there in Pennsylvania, and that's all. Everything else is with me. I basically narrowed my life. At first I narrowed my life down to a car, and everything had to
Hmm.
fit inside my car. But then even that, I was just like, well, I want to be a little greener in life, and more environmental friendly. So I got rid of my car, and I walk and take public transit everywhere. And I had to narrow my life down to a suitcase.
Wow, cool. And shout out to your mom for being so cool and just storing this stuff for you. That's very
I mean,
cool.
she's badass, and like we have a big enough house out there.
Hmm.
Luckily, I mean, everything costs like $1 out there. It's just so cheap in Pennsylvania. But yeah, it's cool to have like my stuff somewhere because I'd probably be frantic. I mean, and if I didn't have that, I would put it in the storage, like rental storage
Yeah.
facility like that.
And you were just mentioning how lucky you feel developing such a cool friendship with Max Cavalera, and just following you, it seems like you've developed a similar friendship with people like Trevor from Black Dahlia Murder or Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse. And myself, like half of the internet, were super fans of these videos you shoot with Corpse Grinder, and especially the latest one. Is that you? How does that come about? Do you approach him, or does he approach you, or how does that happen?
I mean, like they all happen differently. A lot of
Mhm.
them happen organically, where we're literally just hanging out, drinking, shooting a shit, and then talking. And I'd say like like, at least 50% of it is drinking with friends, and then you know how like you are, you can just drink with friends and come up with stupid ideas.
Yeah.
There's no different, in the scenarios that we're in. So we're just talking about like, oh, what should we do? Like when we have to work again, and the claw machine was kind of a no-brainer because so funny enough, he mentioned the claw machine thing years ago to me while we were drinking, and somewhere along we just never got around to it. And somewhere along the line, he posted it. He was posting his winnings and everything on his own social media, and that led to other outlets, other media outlets to ask him about it. So it's kind of popped up, in the past. But, as far as doing like an actual video of him and his procedure and his love for it and everything like that, it was always something that we talked about years ago. But I didn't actually get to, go do it until recently. I was coming back from Africa and I went to Florida to go meet up with him and spend a couple days with him in his home. And his house is amazing, by the way. Like I love hanging out there because like it's as adorable and wholesome as you could ever imagine Corpse Grinder's place to be. Like you have like a wall of like cannibal corpse, headless, gruesome stuff, and then a lot of collectibles, like a lot of like sci-fi collectibles. And I mean, he still had his Christmas decorations up and it was just insane to look at, it's really, really great dude. But yeah, that was just a fun day of like hanging out with George and going doing fucking, going to arcades and hanging out at claw machines, and then taking a walking we went to like the Florida Nature Reserve to look at alligators and shit together, and he was showing me different places in his neighborhood where he grew up and everything, or not grew up, but like where he goes to locally and hangs out. Um yeah, so I would say those things pop up through organic conversations. Sometimes it's like I said, like I'll just come up with a ton of ideas and write them down. I have lists after lists of ideas. I'm constantly thinking, you know, you
Mhm.
know, pro or con. I can't stop thinking, and I'm always writing stuff down for the future. You know.
The difference is a lot of people, a lot of stoners or drunk people come up with fabulous ideas. The difference is that you actually, the next day, you'll start pre-production on it and you'll make it happen.
Pretty much, man. Yeah, I'm a really big fan of turning dumb dreams into reality. You know.
That's gonna be your quote for this podcast, because usually I'll accompany it with a quote, and I think that was a really good quote.
That's
Um,
that's me in a nutshell, man.
yeah, dude. Um, I wanted to give you props and for being so, because before you mentioned wait, let me think about how to phrase this. You were mentioning something about Max Cavalera. I wanted to give you props for being so vocal about a big before and after that's been in your life, which has been the passing of your dad. I feel like it's there's been obviously a lot of, there's been both pros and cons, and it's been really nice to hear you be open about it. I lost my mother like 15 years ago to something very similar, and I feel like 15 years ago was very taboo to just express your feelings about this, and so yeah, I just wanted to give you props on that. And I feel I can see how it's you've grown a lot since then, and it's changed your lifestyle.
Oh, I
So
appreciate that. Thank you,
yeah.
man. It's yeah, as you said, it's a very huge change in my life, and yeah, it's still hard, I still there isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about it. I don't think about him, and it's shaped my future, for better or worse. And the only thing I can try to do is, find my way to get through
Mm-hmm.
this. So, yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. I've my mom passed when I was like 19 years old, and I didn't real it. Maybe it was 6, 7 years later till I actually learned some valuable lessons. Like there was like a slow process. First, it was confused, and then it was like pissed at the world, and then I actually got the positives out of it. Because I'm just saying, I know your dad has been recent, so and I can already see the positives, but they keep on coming. They keep on coming. And
Man, I went through that, the 5 stages of grief. So many times because, I feel like no matter how much I read about the scenario of losing somebody to cancer or what this particular cancer looked like, there was nothing to prepare me for it. You can read and read and read and read, but when you're in it, it's a very different circumstance. Reading is so black and white, and then when you're there living it, it's like these vivid, excruciating colors. And um that I would literally never wish on my worst enemy. Like it was just the worst thing I've ever been through in my life. And watching my my dad and my father who is responsible for all this,
Mhm.
kind of just wither away and be the most vulnerable person that I've never ever seen him be. It's just like everything from the emotions of his sickness to the emotions of losing him to the emotions of looking at my own mortality and myself and my life. And the thing is that and there were so many piles of stuff because like it happened at the height of the quarantine where like the CDC was telling us to stay inside and not even leave the house and stuff like that. And there was this period where we had to like stop seeing each other. And then when I did, after like a month or two, I was like, all right, fuck it. He's getting so bad. Like I have to go to Pennsylvania. I can't be here anymore in New York. I was locked inside anyway. I was going crazy with panic attacks and everything. And I went out there and he was just so much worse. And that was a huge blow. So there's so many different stages in the 9 months of his deterioration where I went through the stages of grief over and over and over again. And then when he actually passed, I think I was in so much shock that it took a while for it to hit again,
Mhm.
And when it did, I really fell apart. And that's when I needed to leave New York and I became effectively a nomad then. Um, yeah, it was not easy. It continues to not be easy. But I think, like we talked about how coming out of the quarantine or good things to come out of the quarantine, there's always positives to come out of any really hard and shitty situation. And I think for me, it's learning how to live again, like how to really kind of have an objective view of my life, recognize what is it that I feel, what is it that I want. Um, I'll put it this way: I have not been angry once since my dad, but not even like 1 hour. I don't
Wow.
feel anger anymore. Um, Sadness, hell yeah. But anger, no, because I kind of just recognize that anger is useless,
Mhm.
pointless. So something like that, I look at that objectively and I'm like, oh well, that's a really big change in my life that is a pro. Like after the anger of losing my dad, because that's natural, that's one of those stages where I literally hated every person on the planet. I wanted everyone to fuck off. I wanted, every person I work with in the industry to just leave me the fuck alone. And it was hard. But after all that, like I came back and I was just like, oh, okay, this anger is stupid, you know. There's no point in it.
Wow. Um, for the listeners and the viewers that are not aware of, Frank's dad was a big metalhead. and he's the one that introduced you into this whole world, correct? You are who you are thanks to him.
Yeah, I mean, he was, I always, it's funny getting everybody's stories about like how they got into metal. Sometimes it's like an older brother or uncle, whatever else. I just had a really cool dad who was a metalhead himself. So naturally, what do you do with your kid when you have one? You show them the music that you're into. And I wound up getting into it, and growing with him, because a lot of cool, like he was showing me music when I was like 4 or 5. And back then it was like Def Leppard and Twisted Sister and, stuff like that. And then Guns N' Roses came out. We got into Metallica. So, and then, when it was like in the early 90s, when I was old enough to, yeah, like 92, 93 or something like that, when there's like new records coming out, like Fear Factory or whatever, I was like, hey dad, this band sounds super tight. And he would like run out and buy the Fear Factory record and we'd listen to it together. I remember like running home. We were really, really into European death metal. So like At the Gates and
Nice.
Carcass. I remember buying those records, and we actually had to pre-order them and wait because they were like not accessible here in America, or Samael, that's another one. And we would go see all those bands live and play to like 20 people. I saw At the Gates play to no one, like,
Wow.
and we were just really big fans of the melodic death metal scene before it was really a thing here in the States,
And you had such a strong bond with your dad from the beginning. Don't you just love when you see stuff like Max Cavalera and his kids, or is there any other cool examples you've seen of like a father and son doing some, like Scottians doing these beautiful videos with his kid?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple, like even like Corey Taylor, Slipknot's doing stuff with his kids, and
Right.
a lot of a lot of people are proud of their kids and stuff. What's really interesting is I you know I have no interest in having children, and I'm old enough now where I probably won't. I don't know. My sister has kids, and I can, well, she has one, and I can, I adore him. I'll spoil my nephew, um but it's a cool thing to see, like the whole family thing, and Max to me is always like probably number one example of that, like the family dude in metal.
Yeah, for
I know
sure.
everybody loves their kids, like, I mean, yeah, even people like George, like, absolutely adores his family, and it's beautiful to watch, but not all of them have them inside their bands, and like creates records with them and stuff like that. So
That's very cool. Yeah, I feel like it's beautiful, and let me just share this small story with you. Like, since the passing of my mom, like, which was a long time ago, it uh I built this really strong bond with my dad, where I'd say even the we're more of best friends than father and son. I'm guessing that's a similar relationship you had with your father. And he's been super supportive of my band. It got to the point where my band and we came up with a drunk idea, like you do with Corpse Grinder, and they were like, Luis, we should get your dad uh, to sing, to be in one of our videos. He needs, like, make him learn the whole thing. And we actually made it happen. We did pre-production for a year, and it's just us being proud of my dad, and he's just singing a grindcore song for 2 minutes. So
that's awesome.
and somehow he's somehow become the mascot of the band. So now he's on the t-shirts, on the long sleeves. So and everyone coming to the shows is like, yeah, they're so now we're all fans of my dad. So I'll make sure I send you that video at some point.
Awesome. That sounds cool, man.
Can you tell me a little bit about you were talking about this band I wasn't aware of, Night Soil?
Yeah, Night Soil is something I did with my. So that was 2019. Me and my bro Nick, we play together, you know, an industrial band and whatnot, but previously to that. But we wanted to do something together, and I was getting into learning how to record, you know, like engineering and whatnot. And he wound up sending me like just a giant folder of riffs, and I wound up like rearranging them into songs, and then laying down drum parts and everything. They needed bass, and then I wound up inviting a few of my friends to sing. So it's more of like a collective type project where
Mhm.
me and Nick will just write all the music, but every song features a different vocalist. So Jessica Pimentel of Brujeria and
Nice.
Orange is the New Black, she sings on one
Yeah.
song. Trevor from Black Dahlia Murder, Dave from Revocation, Doug from Piron, James from Ghost. Yeah, so I had like basically a lot of my friends just singing, you know, different songs on the record. They all sound completely different, so it sounds more like a compilation. Um, and then I had my friend Will Putney do
Hmm.
the mixing on it, and it came out great. And I wound up posting it up during quarantine. It took a while. The
Hmm.
mixing actually took a long time. Like that was because you know
Right.
Will Putney was mixing it, but like he was locked out of his studio because of quarantine. You know,
Hmm.
so he couldn't actually get to it for quite a while. But when he finally did, it was like the middle. To be honest, I don't remember. It might have been like September 2020. I don't remember, but something like that. My dad had already passed. Like, you know, I wasn't doing anything, and we wound up just putting it out. And because my dad had recently passed, we didn't want to collect money on it in the first place, and we
Right.
wanted to put it towards charity. And Nick is actually the one who said, like, you know, given the things going on, maybe it's best that we put the charity towards cancer research. And um, I think people assume that we made the record, you know, with my dad in mind or after my dad, but that's not the case. You know, we actually
Okay.
created it in 2019. It was just we pointed all donations to cancer research, kind of in his honor, and also, you know, Nick's family. Who I mean, like, listen, cancer is something that affects everyone, rich, poor, black, white, literally everyone on the planet, or every not everyone, but every type of person on the planet, you know.
Hmm.
And it's tough. Like, there's a lot they don't tell you. Everybody thinks it's like, oh well, that sucks for them, you know, but it's not me until it's you, you know,
Right.
and or somebody close to you, and then it becomes a very different thing.
For sure. So, and wow. Okay. So that's a lot. So Night Soil, is it available only digitally, or did you guys also release it physically?
No, no physical. It's all digital,
Okay.
but you can get it anywhere. It's on Bandcamp and all the streaming
Okay.
services. Yeah, it's out there. It's kind of death metal, you know. It's
Fuck
basically
yeah.
we started it as like really ignorant slamming death metal was like what we were going for.
Perfect. Perfect. Right up my alley. So Frank, we're getting towards the end. Um,
I
I
was
want to
gonna say I
ask
have to
you.
go.
Okay. Okay. I just want to ask you the last question, which is the question I ask everyone, which is I don't know if you're into horror movies. I'm guessing you are. Have you seen anything horror wise great recently? It can be old or new movie.
uh, yeah, so I mean, I'll say it this way, but I'm not a really big fan of new age horror movies. I prefer the
Okay.
classics and stuff, and I do
Mhm.
love the classic horror movies. I just think that there's so many tropes in the writing, and it's
Okay.
really lazy, you know, in um newer movies. So I don't know. I That's a hard question. I can't remember the last one that I saw. It's been honestly, I've been working so much. I don't get to watch TV or movies that much, you know, as much as often as I'd like, I guess. Um, but you know, I'm a classics guy, man. So like, give me Phantasm, you know,
All right.
The couple Phantasms. I was always a really big fan of those. Even something like Shaun of the Dead, where it's like not so much a horror movie, but also comedy. One of my favorite movies, period, actually. The creation of that film is so meticulous, and from
Hmm.
pre-production through post-production, so meticulous. And it's
Yeah.
a prime example of what movies should be. So
Yeah. Maybe it's not a horror movie, but it's a humongous love letter to the whole horror world, George
yeah.
Romero, and so on.
And that was my conversation with Frank from Metalsucks, Metal Injection, Mika's Murder, and many, many other bands. Thank you very much, Frank. Please be patient. I know these episodes are not as frequent, but they're still happening for sure. They're still happening. A couple of cool guests in the works. And hopefully we'll hear those sooner than later. Goodbye.